Okay, it looks like it's recording now.
Yeah, it is.
Good evening and welcome to the Eastchester Board of Fire Commissioners meeting for August 27th. Hope everyone has been having a good summer. We look for a motion to go into regular session out of an executive session.
I'll motion that.
And I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Tom, you got an aye? Stu was an aye. Give me a nod, Stu. Yep, they're all ayes.
Sorry,
Okay.
I included too.
So,
Yeah.
I guess we'll start off tonight with the Treasurer's Report from Jamie Henstrom. Jamie, could you give us a Treasury's Report, and I'll mute my mic?
Yeah, sure. So tonight, my Treasurer's Report is mostly focused on making certain budget transfers and certain recommendations around that. Part of it is just kind of cleanup for the year. We have not done budget transfers yet this year, and there are some accounts where we know that we're over budget based on maybe some unanticipated expenses where we need to move some money around. Also, we need to make a budget modification for our interest earnings because as we know, we weren't able to get the same benefits out of Treasury Direct this year as we were last year, which had been included in our budget. And then also a discussion specifically around overtime budget transfers and whether, what the board wants to do at this point in time. So starting with the overtime, we budgeted $500,000 for the year. We know, generally our overtime comes in more around $700,000. We did start the year understaffed, and we've had some long-term absences that we're working against. And as of today, we have now used about $430,000 of that $500,000 budget. In order to get through the remainder of the year, when you look at our contractual float days, vacation days, what we spent year to date and what we anticipate in sick leave trends based on what we've seen in the past, I would approximate that we would need about that same $700,000 to get through this year, which would mean additional $200,000 in budget. Since, as I mentioned, we budgeted $500,000. This is something we looked at in the beginning of the year. We didn't talk about it publicly. I've continued to monitor it, and I think we're at the point now where we should be talking about potentially making a transfer. Again, assuming that the board wishes to remain, at full capacity with all firehouses open. So if the board wants to move forward with transfers for overtime, the recommendations are we can take $30,000 from the fire captain salary line. And this would relate to, we had a fire captain that retired earlier in the year. We didn't replace him for a few months, which obviously created overtime. We can take $75,000 from uniformed firefighter salary. Again, we had spots budgeted for the full year that are only being filled now as we get into September. And then we can take $95,000 from hospital. Part of that, since we had budgeted for firefighters, we had budgeted for all of their, ancillary benefits and expenses. And also that line, it does appear that we'll be over budget for the year, which would bring us to a total transfer of $200,000. So that would be the recommendation for overtime. I don't know what the board is looking to do. We still have 10 pays ahead of us that will include overtime. We have, 8 left for the year. And then the first 2 payrolls of 2021, you'll still be paying overtime for 2020. So I do recommend making a transfer, whether the board agrees or not, or wants to move forward with partial or the full thing. I leave it up to you, but those are the recommendations.
Thank you, Jamie. And then you have other recommendations. Will we transfer or modify some sick leave incentive, disabled firemen, and it's just a host of other incentives. You want us to do that tonight as well?
Yes, I'd like to do that as well. I mean, it's better to if we can do them now, that would be great. I mean, most of those are just moving funds around, from one line item to another. I don't think anything crazy there. And then, as I had mentioned, our interest earnings, we do need to revise our estimated earnings. We conservatively estimated for Treasury Direct, assuming about 1.5% interest. Obviously, we're nowhere near that given the current market conditions. So I would also recommend reducing what we estimated for interest earnings by $80,000, and then we could also reduce, an expense, which we know, we were very fortunate this year. Our workers' comp came in much lower than anticipated, so we could reduce it there to keep the budget balanced.
Okay.
So those are my recommendations.
I'll ask the board. I would be inclined to move the $200,000 and put this behind us. It's not like we're spending the money. It's just we moved over to a different line item. And I'll ask other board members of their opinion.
I would agree, Dennis. I don't think it shouldn't be an issue moving the money. So I would be fine with that.
Jamie,
Yes.
how much money is in the fire prevention overtime line? How much money remains there?
Remaining is $34,719.
And the training overtime line?
The training still has the full $90,000. The chief has not used that line yet.
Okay.
Jamie, you
Yes.
are asking to move this money for the rest of the year. How much money do we have to move in order for you to be able to pay appropriately between now and the next board meeting?
When would you anticipate that meeting? Like mid-September?
Let's say mid-September.
Mid-September. If we assume.
Well, she has 30,000, 70,000 left, so none.
Well, I have 70,000 left. We just paid this. That includes this payroll now. So you're talking about getting through 2 more payrolls. I mean, they're still going to include. I would think at least 100, and I say that just because the last few payrolls have been the highest ones as we're in the summer months. We've paid overtime through August 21st. So the overtime is a week behind. So you still have, 2 weeks left of August. And I think we might, and maybe the chief can say, but I think we might be seeing more vacation and float days as we get into September, just because a lot of vacations were postponed and whatnot because of COVID. So I'm thinking 100 would do it. That might even, be high because, like I said, I have 67,000 remaining, so I don't anticipate 2 payrolls being $167,000, but maybe something along those lines is what I would say.
So could you tell me, it's my understanding that we didn't have, during the thick of the COVID and pandemic, we didn't really have anybody calling out, right? We didn't really see a lot of sick time.
No.
Right? My question
that's right.
is, has there been a spike in the need to cover overtime in the last 3 months versus the 3 months before it?
I would say just because it's a more popular time to take vacations and float days, not related to COVID, like not related to sick.
I don't ask what it's related
instances
to.
of sick.
I'm just asking, has the overtime cost gone up in the last 3 months versus the previous 3 months?
Yes.
I'm not asking you to justify the reason. I'm just asking for you to tell me. So
yes, it has.
Post-COVID, our overtime cost has gone up.
But there's several caveats there, Stu. You're going to have, and the chief can lob in here. You have a number of firemen who needed elective surgery who couldn't get the electric surgery during COVID, and they got it, and hopefully they have it. So you have some, it's always the particular illnesses or injuries that, we have a number of people who've been out with injuries or.
Have they been out from injury during the first part of the year? Because this is the first time I'm hearing about people being out with injuries, with the exception of those regulars that we obviously know about. So are we talking about additional people, the people who have long-term injuries?
Yes. And besides the two you know about, yes, the chief can explain.
Oh, Chief, sure. If you could I mean, I don't know this. How many long-term injuries do we now have?
Currently, we have 2 members on long-term injury. One of them will be coming off long-term injury on Saturday, taking his service retirement. But earlier in the year, we had 2 members that had, one was on the job injury, one was off the job injury, and they were unable to get MRIs due to COVID. So the one person did get his MRI and had surgery and is expected to be out 6 to 9 months. So he's been out since February or March, and he won't be back until December or January. The other person, once he got his MRI, he didn't need surgery. He did a couple weeks of physical therapy and came back to work and is back to work. So it just seemed like every time somebody came off long-term injury or sick, somebody else went on. So we constantly had 2 or 3 people.
That might have been me being a little too vague. Those 2 was what I was talking about, not the service retirement or the other individual. I was talking about those 2. Okay, so there's nobody in addition to those 4.
Correct.
Okay. Jamie, how much did we spend in overtime last year?
Last year, I believe it was 712.
Okay.
It was something right around that number. I looked at like a 4-year average too, and that's what we were around. But I don't have the exact number for last year in front of me.
Right. So you know the way I stand. Maybe I'm just a little bit too stubborn, but I like doing a number of transfers rather than just thinking the honeypot is there to be used. So I would rather see us transfer something in order to cover ourselves safely, but not throw the whole thing into the pot and expect it that's what it's there for the rest of the year. That's my own take on it.
But Stu, we don't have to do that yet.
Oh, okay.
We still have time. This is not an urgent thing. We do not have to transfer any money at this meeting.
Okay. So can we transfer it at the next meeting if necessary?
Well, we'll look at it the next meeting and decide at that point.
Well, that's fine with me.
Well, my point is, I think you should do at least 100 to get it out of the way. You're going to spend it anyway by year end. And anything can happen between now and the next meeting in September. You could have a hurricane. You could have the schools go back and a flare up of COVID, and I think it puts the chief in a difficult position to worry whether he has to man firehouses or not. And getting this board to meet is not a simple matter. So, I would assume we move 100 and then give the chief some breathing room. It's not like the membership has been outstanding as far as not calling in sick. They've been excellent. Look at the history of this year. They've been just outstanding. There's no way around that.
They have been, because they've been incentivized not to call out sick.
I can debate that.
And yet still, we went through $200,000, over $200,000 in 2 months, in the last 2 months. So you're congratulating them for doing such a great job. And I agree, during the COVID epidemic, they did a fantastic job. But these last summer months, we've gone, because we had this discussion in April. We know how much money was left in April.
Okay.
And we know how much money's left now.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
we know how much we spent in the last 2 months. And the summers are the high months, and it won't continue. God willing, everyone will get better, and we'll move forward. But we do not need to make any transfer at this meeting tonight. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Jamie, can you correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we have $400,000 in April at that discussion?
Let me see.
In that pot when we first talked about moving overtime, moving money?
Let's see. Go to my. So you're saying you're in April? So when we would have been looking at. Okay, so do you want me to look at when it was because April we would have been looking at through March 31st, or should I go to May and look through April? I'm going to go May and look through April. Is that
No, I would, yeah, look at that and see.
okay? So when I did in our, let's say our May. Yeah, and at the May Treasurer's Report, we had used $111,000 of overtime, which would have given us about $400,000 remaining.
So for June, July, and August, in 3 months, we've burned through another, where are we at? Another $200,000?
No, more. We've used 433. So you burned through 300.
$300,000. Well, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, guys.
Well, what's your alternative?
Budget better and stick to the money.
And manage the department.
We can't control money at overtime.
Very well.
If I could just say, Commissioners, the overtime budget was set in anticipation of hiring in February for the Spring Academy, which we didn't do. By not hiring 3 members, it created a lot of the overtime that we're now seeing.
Right. Now, we wanted to hire in January and it didn't happen. So we all had to make our own adjustments. But just because we put money into the budget to be spent doesn't mean that because we didn't hire that we just need to fill it with a hole. So now we've hired 3 people. When will they come onto the job?
Christmas.
Christmas.
They'll graduate the academy December 18th. They'll do a week of straight days to get driver training and
Right.
acclimated to our equipment, and then they'll go on the line the week of Christmas.
Okay. So, Jamie, we have enough money in the line right now to cover us till the next meeting, as long as we meet probably in mid-September. But we can always call a special meeting if we needed to.
Yeah, because I mean that's what I would say is you're getting close, because even if I was thinking for example we have a payroll on September 11th and then September 25th. September 25th I run the payroll on September 21st, but the chief
Right.
would have already scheduled the overtime in the 2 weeks prior to that. So if you're talking.
What's our mandatory September date this year? Isn't it usually around the 25th or so of the month for our budget?
We have to, the board needs to adopt the proposed budget by September 29th.
Okay, and you said your payroll before that, or was what, the 27th?
Yes, I have a payroll on the 25th, which I run on the 21st.
All right. So
But
then
like I said, the chief would have already scheduled that overtime.
Right.
When I'm running it, it's just this is what overtime was spent in the last 2 weeks.
And we have to have a budget meeting between then and now and then anyhow. We still have to have a budget meeting scheduled between
Yep.
now and the 29th of September.
So why don't we meet on September 10th and hammer this out then?
That's fine. If that's,
Right? That's the Thursday of that week.
I had recommended proposed meeting dates of September 10th at 7 p.m. Are we talking about 7 p.m. on the 10th?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if the board wants to do something like that, that's a date that looks like it'll work out for everything. We'll probably have to meet again, though, on September, whatever it is, September 27th or whatever,
And the
Jamie.
meeting
Unless we adopt the budget that night, too.
we can adopt a proposed
doesn't give us
budget on
enough time.
September 10th.
And that'll probably be our first in-person meeting.
We really should try and be in person in September.
I will not be in an in-person meeting in September. And we have to
Well, the extension might run out. It might run out September 7th, Dennis.
Well, I won't be there. I'm
Oh, that's
66
fine.
years
You don't
old.
have to
I'm
be.
not taking risks to get the virus for the Eastchester.
That's very
Party.
understandable, Dennis. You have a
Okay.
great life. You have to live it.
We get it.
I am not taking, I know too many people. who
We heard.
take
Let's keep
virus
going.
against The risk. Sorry, I'm not doing it. And I would advise people who are in my age bracket not to take it lightly and go out and think this virus is over.
Okay, that's fine. I don't think anybody believes that. But So then why don't we why don't we look to schedule a meeting for September to go over the budget, whether in person or on this platform, and we will tackle the budget, overtime, all that in one night.
Yeah, and you might do the bills, because I'm not going to approve the bills since we didn't move any money for overtime.
We're not going to approve the bill?
I'm not going to approve the bills tonight because I want us to have a meeting earlier to talk about the overtime.
Well, what about the
Having
bill?
trouble with the sandbox again, Dennis?
We need
What's
to
that?
approve the bills that are for tonight. A bill is not overtime, is not a bill.
Well, I know, but I'm not going to approve
Oh,
the
come on. Don't be such a baby. Let's do this.
Wait, so you don't want the fire district to pay its vendors because we're not moving the money for overtime?
What's that?
We're not going to pay our vendors because we're not moving the overtime budget.
I have limited tools to deal with you guys. That's one of my tools. I am not a baby. I've been on this board a long time. I can do what I want to do, and nobody can force me to pay the bills.
And that's fine. You don't vote to pay the bills, and Paul can vote how he would like to vote. Tom will vote how he would like to vote. And you don't have tools for anything on the board. We're 5 equal people, as much as it might bother you. We're 5, even though one of them is not here today. So if you don't want to pay the bills, that's fine too. That's fine. You can vote no, because I'm voting no to move overtime. So.
Okay. So now,
Do you want to save the rest of the budget transfers? They're not critical. We can
we'll
do
pass
them next.
on to that. Trust Jamie.
What other budget transfers do you need?
In the Treasury Report, so the transfers I recommended, we're over on our other miscellaneous expenses because we had a settlement payment in the beginning of the year. So I had suggested, where we can move the money, to cover that. Because if we don't do it now, we'll have to do it at the end of the year, and it's fine if you want to wait. Also, just again, moving from fire equipment and capital outlay to capital improvement station 4 exterior. Just because, again, that's really a sub account, and the money should be moved down to the sub account. Same with professional consultant fees to labor consultant attorney fees, and then also the sick incentive that we paid at the beginning of this year wasn't specifically budgeted for. So I was just recommending taking it from the new overtime sick incentive to cover what's in the sick leave incentive. So it's a total of $285,100 in transfers.
I have no problem with moving operational transfers. I have no problem with that. I would make a motion to approve all other operational transfers. That's fine with me. Overtime, I say September 10th.
Okay, so on your motion to approve the operational, is there a second?
What's the total figure, Jamie? Can you give that to us? Because that's going to be
total. So the
transcription.
Sure. So the total transfers would be $285,100, and the total budget modification, which is where we're reducing our anticipated interest earnings, would be $80,000.
Okay.
So that'd be $365,100.
So those are the operational transfers. I would make a motion for that, to move those operational transfers, sans overtime money.
I will second.
Okay. Tom?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Paul Carlo?
Aye.
And I'll say no. Okay, motion carries. Jamie,
Yes.
on we got your bills to be paid. So the board's got a copy of the bills, and everybody's read them, and there's 3 warrants. So the one warrant is for $1,372,000. No, it's $1,372,566.79. Another warrant is for $30,773.83. and the credit card bill is $1,029.75 for a total of $1,404,370.37.
I make a motion to pay the bills.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I'll poll the board. Commissioner Carlo,
I'll say aye.
Commissioner Raven,
Aye.
Commissioner Roach,
Aye.
and I'll say no. Motion carries. Okay. Jamie, the board just, you haven't had a salary increase in a year. People should realize you're a part-time employee. You only work about 20 hours a week. The board has, I would make a motion, we increase Jamie's salary by $2 an hour. Can I get a second on that?
I'll second that.
As everybody knows, Jamie is phenomenal and does a great work. So I'll poll the board. Commissioner Carlo,
Aye.
Commissioner Raven,
Aye.
Commissioner Roach,
Aye.
and I'll say aye. And thank you, Jamie. That should be effective September 1st. Everybody good with that?
Yeah. Thank you,
Yep.
Jamie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Okay. Chief, I think we got, Jamie, that's all we have, right?
I mean, unless you just want to talk preliminarily about the budget, I had included some just high-level information in the treasurer's report.
Okay.
If you want me to go through that. So just for by way of information, I mean, we've started looking at the budget. I know Commissioner Rabin, you've kind of given us some ideas of where you'd like to see us come out. I've sat down with the chief preliminarily on some of the items that we will need next year, as well as some items that, we'd like to acquire for the district. I also, looked into our tax cap data, and just to let you know, as of right now, the data that's available, we have the ability, I'm not saying we're going to do this, but we have the ability to increase taxes approximately 3.1% from last year's tax levy without exceeding the tax cap. The reason it's over the 2% that most people hear about is because we have a carryover available to us from last year of approximately $220,000. So the last 4 years on average, we've had a 1.8% increase because 1 year we did have a 0%. And so each year where we don't exceed or hit the tax cap, we do get a carryover available to us. So that's what we're working with this year. Just in terms of some of the items that are outside of our control. Obviously, we know we have a 2.5% salary increase for the CBA. As of yet, we don't have any estimates from night shift or the retirement system, which are two of our largest expenses. Last year, it looks like night shift provided their initial estimate around September 20th. New York's the retirement system will be probably sometime later this month. We'll have to just work with what we have. And then, like I said, certainly open to, all comments and from the commissioners, if there's anything, specifically you want to see or don't want to see, or, and if there is the desire to sort of go through in more of a budget workshop type setting. That's something I know was brought up earlier in this year. So I don't know if that would be something that we would do at that September 10th meeting, but we certainly, can look at it in whatever detail the board would like to. But that's the parameters we have to work in. And, there'll be some items where we'll have to make some decisions, certain things that were either in the budget this year that we didn't move forward with, or if there's any major items that the board foresees for next year that we should be thinking about.
So Jamie, the carryover increases every year by the amount that we went under the cap.
Essentially, I mean, there's a formula that they calculate based on like what you could have used, and I have to look at it in more detail, but they do this calculation and they give you the lesser of. And so this year, it's all done by the state. You just log on and you fill in your information. And this year, our carryover, yes, was $220,000. And that is because we've not used our full, used our full amount in the previous years.
And if we
So
continue,
that's available to us. Yeah.
and if we continue to go under the cap every year, is there any limit to how much carryover? Could it be over $1 million at some point?
No, there is a limit, because each year, and I could send you more information on how they calculate it, but each year they do two different calculations, and they give you the lesser of. So it doesn't just add on every year. Like if we could increase 550 this year and we increase 0, you're not going to get that full 550,000 next year. There's going to be some limit on that. Every year our carryover has been around the $200,000. So you're not going to get that full amount to carry over.
The whole tax cap law is subject to change at any time too by the legislature. So there's no guarantee what you get one year is going to be the next year. Okay, Jamie. Jamie, the way I view it is we currently gave the firemen a 2.5-year contract for 5 years last year. So a 2.5-year increase, a 2.5%, salary increase per year for 5 years. That works out to be because you're paying about 20% into the retirement system, and then you have FICA of probably 8% or something, and then you have workman's comp. Those percentages are like magnify those increases to get you almost up to 2 3/4 in real dollars. So our run rate for the actual employees is up probably, close to 3% a year. And I know we want to control spending money. So I think we're going to have to come in somewhere between 0 and 1.5 or 0 and 1. I think if we come in 0, we're tying the hands of future boards, because those salary increases are baked in the cake. I mean, they're done. We gave it to them.
Well, salaries and retirement are, the pension are half of the budget, a little over half the budget. And so, yes, that'll reflect a 1.25%, maybe a 1.3% increase in the total budget.
Well, healthcare is another 20% of your budget, probably, right?
Well, healthcare, we don't know yet. That can really vary, but we do know that every new member that we hire, the pension costs go down. We know that we save on every hire based on the new CBA. So yes, there's offsetting costs and savings.
I think that we need to be aware that in 2021, we're going to have to limit our spending. And we're going to have to kind of consider putting on hold everything but finishing up Chester Heights, or at least finishing up the floor and the heating and those required systems. I think COVID is throwing a lot of municipalities for the loop. And although we're not a revenue municipality or district where we're taking in any kind of fees, we still have to be mindful of the taxpayers. I am still leaning towards a 0% increase for 2021, and whatever necessary costs that we need to make up, we need to find somewhere in the budget to reappropriate that money. I think it's very difficult right now to start asking for more money out of people's pockets. We need to control our spending. If we have to limit the amount of new boots, new jackets, new vehicles, the boat, whatever the case may be, we need to look into curtailing that spending. That's my position for right now.
I completely understand that, and that's very logical. But the taxpayers should be aware that we have in rolling stock, in the fire department, we have in rolling stock somewhere around $5 million worth of equipment in rolling stock that has an average life of 15 years. So we used to put away $250,000 to $400,000 a year to pay for our rolling stock. And then that's why we're paying for a new ladder truck probably This month, we paid $1 million for a new ladder truck that we didn't have to bond out. Maybe future you start bonding them out. But that was paid for with money that we accrued from, budget after budget, knowing that we're having a depleting asset. We don't have that in our budget anymore. We have to be mindful of that. We have some of those cushions have been already removed.
Well, when I got on the board, we had, and the chief can let me know because he knows better than I think anyone, we had a substantial amount of trucks that were over the age of 11, 12, 15 years old. And we have been replacing them. But it doesn't mean that we have to bring in new stock every year, especially since they take a year to come in. We are getting a new ladder. We need it. The one we used failed, right? The aerial was failing. We kept having it repaired.
Yeah, but the point is still, we had the money to buy 3 new ladder trucks and a new engine, and we didn't affect the annual budget because we had planned for it over the last 7-10 years.
But Dennis, we don't want to get into some kind of heated semantic discussion, but with all that money that was sitting in the fund balance, so many other things were not done during that time that now we're paying more money to do those things now. Chester Heights' floor should have been done 5, 6, 7 years ago. It wasn't done. I understand that you're trying to say that the district did a really good job of keeping money in a fund balance, but we're now paying more for things because it sat there. I think that we need to control spending in 21, and we need to figure out what that means and be as close to zero, if not zero, as possible. That's all. Everyone's going to have their own political and personal opinion. That's mine.
And it was my understanding the reason why we had to stop with the apparatus and house fund balance is because we had them combined, and that controller didn't want that. And that we just have to separate them and reestablish them if in case we think we need them.
All right. Well, we're not voting on a budget tonight because we have nothing in front of us. So.
Right. All right. So next.
Yep.
Now, why are we here? The heating system in Chester Heights, if we want to talk about budget and saving money, I think we should really discuss just going with a steam oil burner and a steam, either gas or oil or a combo unit, and try to use the existing heating system. I think that's the cheapest, most effective way to keep that firehouse. I think going for a brand new HVAC system would be problematic and expensive. So,
what has our engineers said about this? Do we have any kind of consensus with them? We gave them money to map it out.
And we haven't gotten much from that engineering.
Yes, I'd like to know why we haven't gotten much from these engineers, and we cut off Chester Heights the way we did for a new group, and now here we are in August of 2020, and we're nowhere closer to that floor being done than we were in January of 19. I hope we're just aware of that. That's where we are.
And my fear by separating the heating plant from the floor is that we'll compromise the floor once it's laid. I think we need to develop a plan. You say you want to go back to a gas-fed steam boiler. Will we need to run pipes through that floor to accomplish that?
Well, yeah, you're going to have to run pipes through the floor regardless of what system we put in there.
Well, no, because if we had it in the bid package, that would have went in first, and then the floor would have went in second. The contractor would have did it in order, so he wouldn't have had to compromise his own floor.
No, we did. I mean, the chief laid out an email what we did in the North End Firehouse. We put in conduit in the floor, access conduit that could be utilized when the floor came in. The same thing we did with the roof when we put the roof in.
But you told me just the opposite, that there was a huge mix-up with the conduits being cut off at Wilmot.
No, what happened with Wilmot in the early stages, the first redo in Wilmot, which I was not part of that whole hiring process, they hired an architect who did not lay out the existing wiring, and he cut all the wiring and piping out. And when the second round, when we did it the second time using a different contractor, an architect, we put conduit in the floor so we could feed through the building, and it worked out fine.
Has
We did the
Joe
same thing-
put the wiring? Has he identified it like you're saying?
have the wiring there. Though this building is a little less complicated, but I'm not 100% sure. I thought you and Mr. Keating were on that building.
No, you refused. You insisted it would be the chief and Tim.
Well, you can go down there and map out take your plans and go take a look, Tom.
Why don't we give the guy who we've paid this money to do it, and not a commissioner or any commissioner who doesn't have the ability to do this? Why do we think that as a board we have the ability to do this? We don't. That's why we hire professionals.
Take your professional, Stu, you voted on that. You voted to approve that bid spec, to put it out to bid.
What other choices anybody have, Dennis?
Then why are you whining at me?
I didn't vote. I didn't vote to take FSI out of the league, and now here where we are.
Oh God, you guys
Right?
are so hostile. Okay,
Right? Where are we now? Nowhere. We're nowhere.
all right.
I think that because the floor is going to go in before the heating plant, that we might be better off with the chief's plan of a HVAC in the attic and really deal with the cellar in Chester Heights with dehumidifiers, because that's really going to be the issue down there is the humidity. We're going to want to keep the humidity down to prevent any mold growth or anything like that. We don't need to air condition or heat that space. Well, the dehumidifiers will heat it. And just go in that direction, because I don't want us to compromise a brand new floor and lose its warranty 6 months after it's laid.
Drilling holes through floors are not that difficult, but you're going to need a heat system in the basement of some sort. You're going to need a heat system. You can't have the basement without any heat. Your water pipes come through the basement. What are you going to do? Have no heat down there?
You don't believe that the dehumidifiers would put out enough heat to keep the pipes from freezing?
Hopefully not. Hopefully you're not buying dehumidifiers that end up blowing heat through a room.
All right, well,
The discussion we should be having with an engineer.
I
yes.
agree. I'm not arguing with that.
There was an email from Joe on July 13th where he talks about a couple of options. You guys have it?
Yeah, I'm sure with this.
I do recall it, Paul. Thank you.
I know he does talk about going HVAC, but also about a gas moratorium. So we should revisit.
I think the chief can weigh in. I think that we should be all set with that, right? Con Ed said with us we should be clear of that moratorium.
I was told by Con Ed reps, not anyone in particular, but they said because we already have gas service in the building that it shouldn't affect us, that it's a moratorium on new installation. So if it's a building that never had gas service and you need gas service installed, you cannot have it installed right now with the moratorium. So we have gas service. So after talking to one of the Con Ed gas supervisors, he said yes. Now, I don't know if it's his decision. It may be a higher up in Con Ed, but that's what I was told, that, it's a moratorium on new gas service for buildings.
Okay. How many BTU meter you have? If we currently have a 500 BTU or a 750 BTU meter, we'll probably be okay. If we have a 250 BTU meter, probably won't be okay. But then again, that's for an engineer to go look at and figure it out.
Well, Con Ed said that they won't talk to us about it. They talk to the plumber. So once we hire the plumber talks to Con Ed and straightens all that out, whether we need blue cards and all that kind of stuff. So I don't even know if they'll talk to the engineer. They told me specifically, once you hire the plumber, they contact Con Ed and then they work through all that.
So we need to get Joe Paterno into a meeting with us and discuss this. Just because we're getting these bids back doesn't mean we have to move on it right away. We just have the responses. I don't know what the bid package says. It's probably a 45-day. We can always ask for an extension if we find a bid that we are comfortable with. And we can get the horse before the cart if we feel that we've put the cart before the horse at this point.
Okay.
In other words, try to get the bid for the heating plant out immediately.
If the board was to decide that that's what they wanted to do, we could still keep the bid for the floor in suspended animation for as long as the proposers agree to do that, and we could do that first. That's an option. But we should have a conversation with Paterno. COVID's been very difficult, but these emails back and forth about schematics and attachments and all that, it's not conducive to how we operate. We have nothing that we can sit in a room and go over something like we've done in the past. That's what we did when we first got the original bid spec back for the whole building back in 2017. We were able to physically hold it and go through everything and, of course, not award it. But I think we need to have Joe in a meeting in public session and pepper him with these questions so at least get an idea of what we're going to do. He's supposed to be guiding us, not the other way around.
So how many bids went out already, Chief? Do you know? Like bid packages were requested.
I believe Joe Paterno is sending them out.
Yeah.
So yeah, the bids are being sent out by Joe. I don't know how many he has sent out.
Okay. I think it was 2 or 3 I saw via email, but I didn't know if more were going out.
Yeah.
Did we bother with BidNet? Are we going to put it on BidNet or not?
Jamie looked into it. She can talk more on that. Jamie did some light research on that to see what it would require.
Basically, it requires nothing but us telling Jamie to do it. There's no fee involved.
Great. So can't we just use that Station 4 email address and just put it on BidNet and have everything flow through that? Right?
If that's what you want, I'll I don't think Jamie's on anymore. I'll let her know.
She's also here.
You probably get a little more for that.
Just use the
Can you
station.
guys hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay. All right. Sorry, my headphones died. Yeah, I sent that email. I spoke to a representative over there, and she said, like Dennis just said, there is no cost to participate. Takes about an hour and a half of training to get us on board. There's certain other services they provide. There was an example of the press release and the language on our website. And then it, does get us access potentially to more vendors. They can submit bids electronically.
Right.
So as long as that's something the board wants to move forward with, I can get that process started on Monday.
Yeah, I would say just use the Station 4 email address as the contact and make everything flow into one place rather than having a whole other separate email address that then is going to collect all that data.
Okay.
So we'll get into an IT discussion, I guess, about that. But I think that's the way to go. Just utilize that email address.
Okay.
Is that an email address or is it a forwarding?
I believe it's an actual email address.
People are emailing that address with requests. So, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not an alias.
Right.
It's an actual email account.
Okay.
Because I tried to use it for the station emails that we set up, and it was already taken, so I had to change all the email addresses to something else.
Okay. All right. So, Chief, you want to give your report?
Sure. I just want to get one thing clarified. I think Commissioner Roche said we're going to use the training day money for the overtime now. I have training days scheduled for October. Do I have to cancel them? I believe that's what he suggested, that the training day and the fire prevention overtime money be used for the to cover the vacations and float days. So are we not going to have training days for 2020?
I don't know. Tom?
I did ask how much money was in the account, and Jamie said that you had not used any of the training money yet, and she did give a fire prevention amount that's been retained there. I didn't mention anything about using that money, but I think it's a great idea. But what's the training you have planned?
They have a new Con Ed prop up there that goes over gas leaks and CO calls and things like that. It's a whole station. It has like manholes, and they have a house that they actually built. So we were going to have all the groups go up there on a Monday in October, 4 Mondays, and send 14 guys up at a time or 15 guys up at a time, however many people are on duty that day, so that they would get Con Ed training up there. And the reason that we haven't used them yet is because the fire academy hasn't been available due to COVID. But now that they're opening up for the fire academy, they're going to start allowing departments to start using it again. So my intention was to use one training day for the firefighters for live fire training. And then the second training day would be for this Con Ed prop that they have. So I would have to change plans, and if that money is no longer available.
Did they have the live burn out? The live burn is up and running again?
I anticipate by October or November it will be. And it says in the contract that one of the training days each year will be cold weather. So if it's in November, December, that'll comply with that CBA agreement on the training days.
I'm in favor you continue with that training. I thought it was mandatory, part of the agreement with the union.
Well, it says up to 2 training days. It doesn't,
I
specify
got you. All
that
right.
they
Well,
will be 2 training
if
days.
the other commissioners think that's worthwhile training, I would be in favor of it.
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah.
Well, that
Okay.
brings us back to the earlier discussion. If that $70,000 is going to be used for the chief believes is necessary training, where does that leave us if that money's not there between now and the next meeting date?
It doesn't change anything because that wasn't part of the transfers anyway.
Exactly.
That was an exterior thing that Tom asked Jamie about. That wasn't in her calculations on overtime training transfers.
Okay, I'm all for more training, so I'm not against the chief. The training days were put in the contract because fortunately we don't have a lot of real firefighters, and it's important that these guys continue to train in hot situations and live burns, and to keep up on technology. I mean, the training, just the simple things is getting to a car nowadays. I mean, the battery operated cars and the equipment that's in them, and the posts on a lot of these cars are you just can't cut through them. If you do cut through them, you're hitting airbags, you're hitting high power lines. So the training is important.
There you go, Chief.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. So I'll give my report for July, monthly activity report, July 2020. Total alarms, 272. 8 fire alarm related, 138 EMS or rescue. We provided mutual aid twice, once to Scarsdale for a house fire and once to Mount Vernon for a house fire. Both times we were redirected to the scene for those fires. On the 4th of July, Group 1 had a fire at a residence on White Plains Road and quickly brought it under control. The quick response by Captain Bruce Yazzo and the members of Group 1 minimized the damage to the front porch of the residence. He reported it appears that fireworks are what started the fire. So we remind the residents, please be careful if you're using fireworks. It seemed like a very busy year for fireworks this year. There were quite a few. And so, please use caution when you're using fireworks. Suez Water has begun installing a new style of fire hydrant. The interior design provides better water flow, and the front connection that we connect our pumpers to is a 5-inch diameter opening for the water, which is greater than the current 3.5-inch connection. The reason the water company is doing it because it's tamper resistant, and it's also less maintenance because there's more quality parts inside, stainless steel valves. So they like them because it's better for them, and we like them because they give us more water. So I have a picture of one. I don't know if people will be able to see it, but it's been referred to as a minion because it looks like the minions from the Despicable Me movies. So I did notify the 3 police departments so that they realize that these are our new hydrants and to make sure cars are not parking in front of them. Maintenance mechanic Tim Dalton has been on sick leave since June 29th. He anticipates to be back to work on Monday. He'll get clearance from his doctor on Friday and go to Dr. Goyle's office over the weekend to get clearance. So fingers crossed, Tim will be back on Monday. The Clorox Total 360 system has been delivered, and we canceled the service from Citywide of Westchester, who was doing the electrostatic disinfecting. Tim will be able to do that in-house. One of the groups had training from the Clorox rep, and we will have further training for the other 3 groups and for Tim coming up soon. The installation of the washers and dryers have been completed. They are all up and running, and the installation of the ice machine has been completed at fire headquarters. Commissioner Keating mentioned that the front steps of fire headquarters appear dangerous. Some of the slates on the stairs are loose, and there's quite a bit of mortar that has come out. Tim got 3 quotes from 3 masons, and the lowest quote is from Rasso Brothers General Contracting in New Rochelle for $4,250. I would like to move forward with that because it's a safety issue. And it was, brought up by one of the commissioners who pointed it out. So, if the board has no objections, I would like to hire the Grasso brothers. They are prevailing wage, and they will provide the certified payroll as we require of our contractors before they'll get paid. The station one dormitory AC compressor needs replacement, the one up on the roof. I obtained 3 quotes. The lowest quote is $4,475 from the Clean Air Quality Service Incorporated in Hawthorne. Again, the 3 quotes, this quote is prevailing wage, and they will provide certified payroll. So it's a repair. I'm not asking for a new air conditioning or anything like that. It's something that went down. So I'm just want to advise.
What would the cost of a new air conditioner be?
I'm sorry, what's that, Commissioner?
What would the cost of a new air conditioner be?
So a whole air conditioning system with the unit up in the attic and all the ductwork would be about $16,000 to $20,000. I got 1 quote where they wanted to replace everything. And I told them, we had it diagnosed as only the outside compressor. So my understanding was 8 years ago or whenever it was put in, the whole thing was about $7,000 or $8,000. So I guess maybe prices have gone up, or maybe it wasn't done under prevailing wage back then. Maybe it's more expensive because it's prevailing wage quotes. But, I did get 3, I got 4 quotes, but like I said, one of the quotes was for $16,000 to replace the whole system. So I just threw that, I put that one to the side, and I got 3 quotes for replacing the compressor. And this one was the lowest. So it's also a heating, it's a heat pump, so it actually provides assistance on the heating in the winter and, cooling in the air conditioning in the summer.
Well, interesting. Grasso Brothers are one of the prospective bidders on the floor. If I believe that's the exact name and address that I saw in an email from Joe.
Okay.
So that would be a cheap way to see what kind of quality work he does.
Sure. That's
Chief, I think the $4,000 or basically $4,500 for changing an air compressor is probably fair. I would object to doing any work on the steps in Station 1 unless they're not being made ADA compliant. Even patching them, it doesn't make any sense. They should be made ADA compliant, and I wouldn't spend any money on it if it's not ADA compliant.
I have a question.
Sure.
Because I haven't been there in a while. How are the steps ADA compliant?
They're not.
But how would they be?
You put a ramp in. You take out the existing section.
Dennis, the steps are not ADA compliant because they're steps and there's a railing. It has to be up to state building code. You're talking about putting in a ramp. So the steps themselves cannot be ADA compliant. And I bet you that it would be a huge undertaking to insert a ramp at Station 1 at the incline necessary, that they probably wouldn't even approve a ramp there. I understand what you're saying about making things ADA compliant, but the steps themselves are allowed to be repaired. They don't have to be replaced by a ramp.
The
But you
building
can
needs to
make
be really
building one, you can make Station 188 compliant if we're gonna have the money to do that. But you can't stop
Couldn't
there.
they do a quick repair?
Yeah, of course they could do a repair. That's not a problem. You know, repair is within the building code. They're not going to tell you to change it into a ramp. And the other thing too is, Chief, I have a question about the prevailing wage, which of course we have to pay. But are we certifying this work through the Department of Labor and getting the package from them that shows the prevailing wage? Or are we going off of our vendors telling us that this is prevailing wage?
Well, the quote will say that they will pay prevailing wage and provide certified payroll to show.
Right.
Jamie, I assume, could go on the Department of Labor website to see what the prevailing wage is for
Yeah.
masons, or what's the prevailing wage for air conditioning, contractors.
Yeah.
I believe that's listed on there.
I think procurement-wise, according to the Office of the State Comptroller, we actually need to start inputting these small jobs, which costs us nothing to do. You just go to the link, put in the information, and submit it. I think that we actually have to start submitting that stuff to the state, which I know is probably a painful step, but it doesn't take very long. But I think we have to start doing that. And they'll send us the wage packet, and it requires signatories from the vendor to sign off on to verify that they're basically, it's like short of a notarization to say that they're not pulling the wool over our eyes and saying, oh, this is okay, this is okay. It may not be for us. Maybe we're doing that diligence, and that's great, but just something to think about. We may have to look at that. I'll send you the link. You guys look at it, but I know that's probably something.
Okay, thank you. We're learning as we go. I
Yeah,
mean,
of course.
we've
We
been
all are.
told that our vendors have to pay prevailing wage, and so we're making sure they're doing that. So we'll just, if we're
No
supposed
problem.
to be doing something else, we'll follow up on that and make sure it gets done.
Absolutely.
Vehicle
Well,
maintenance. I'm sorry, did somebody else want to say?
Yeah, why don't we just try to move this along? So, Chief, I would make a motion. We hire your contractor to put the air conditioning unit in at the cost you define there, basically
$42.50.
$42.50. Somebody want to second that?
I'm sorry, that was for the steps out front. The air conditioner compressor is $44.75.
$44.75. Somebody want to second that?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So okay. Now the steps. Does somebody want to make a motion to fix the steps?
I'll make a motion, fix the steps.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
I'll call the board. Commissioner Carlo.
Well, not for anything. I mean, I know you said the steps need to be fixed. I mean, I haven't seen them either in a while. I mean, how bad are they, Stu? Do you, Chief? How bad are they?
Some of the flagstones are loose, so our concern is somebody could trip on them if they shift. If the more mortar comes out from underneath the steps, they definitely need attention. A lot of the flagstones, not a lot, but some of them are cracked. So probably water's getting in there in the winter time, so it's only compounding the problem. So they definitely need to be addressed.
Cracked flagstones?
I'm sorry, Commissioner?
Bluestone.
Replace as needed, it says in the bid.
How much do we pay if somebody falls down them because they break?
It
More
says
than $4,000? Right? Somebody
What?
takes a tumble down those steps in the condition they're in. How much do we pay? More than $4,000 to that person? Or an insurance company pays it? Or do we just spend the $4,000 and not be negligent?
I hear
Or
you.
do we get sued for failing to comply with the Rehabilitation Act or the ADA, both of which we're not complying with?
Why
I'm
are we
sorry,
not
I think the liability is greater there.
repairing them? How are we not complying with a repair? If you change the door and it's not 36 inches wide, are we not complying with ADA because we're fixing a door?
No, you can't. You couldn't get access to the door. A disabled person cannot get into the firehouse to visit Jamie.
Of course.
How is a disabled person getting in the firehouse to
But
visit
that's
Jamie?
okay because the disabled person can get into the firehouse and Jamie can go meet them in that area.
Yeah, where's the buzzer? You want to show me where the buzzer or handicap parking space is?
Oh, I don't know, Dennis. I didn't know that we're in the business of creating spaces on the street. Is there no handicap parking space on the street that we're on?
No, there's not. but there's required to be.
I guarantee you that there is one. I
Okay.
guarantee you that the town has a handicap parking space on Main Street.
I doubt it.
Okay. All right. So then let's get, Chief, can you get me a quote for blue paint then? Because we have to do that. And not to mention that if you want to put a handicap space in the back area of the fire department, be prepared to lose 3, if not 4 spaces back there. Because that's what will be required. Unless you know that you'll have to have an 8-foot area just on the side of the vehicle that can't be parked in order to allow for a handicap parking space.
Correct.
We know all this. But if you repair steps, you're not violating ADA. If we replace the steps, we make them ADA, that's different. But repairing them.
I'm glad you're an expert in this, too.
Well, look, if it's going to be a matter of someone could get hurt, then fine. I'm fine fixing them.
Yep, I agree too. I agree with Paul.
And I voted aye already.
And I'll say no. We'll move on. Motion passed.
Thank you, Commissioners. The vehicle maintenance continues through the use of outside vendors. The Pierce new Ladder 16 is at the Firematic Supply dealership in Long Island, getting the radios mounted and the tool brackets fabricated. The in-service training with the Pierce factory rep is scheduled for September 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th to hit all the groups, so the members will be trained in the new ladder truck. It will then be put in service, running out of the shop at the rear of headquarters until Station 4 renovations are completed. The new Chief's vehicle should be completed and delivered next week. I'm still waiting on New York State DMV for the registration and plates. I had to submit all the forms to a mailbox outside their office in White Plains and haven't heard anything since. That was 2.5 weeks ago, so hopefully the plates will come in the next week or two. The current Chief's vehicle will then be used by Fire Prevention Captain Pinaval. He's driving a 2001 Ford Explorer, so he'll upgrade to the 2007 GMC Yukon, and then his vehicle will be staged behind headquarters for personnel transport for when we have fires or if we have training days. At the Health and Safety, they've asked for a bus or some type of van type vehicle to transport people when we get fires and equipment. So I think this is a good start. It won't cost us anything other than maintaining the insurance on the vehicle. And you could fit 3 or 4 guys in the back with their equipment. So if we get a fire or if we're doing a training day and they need a vehicle, that'll be available. Fire and prevention and code enforcement continues with many plan reviews. There's a lot of construction going on right now. Tons of solar panels being installed, so they're quite busy with that. We have 2 members out on long-term absence, as we discussed before. 1 member continues to work on restricted or light duty. And the 1 member on paid admin leave is now back to work as of today. The EFD has 3 candidates enrolled in the Career Chiefs Fire Academy scheduled to begin September 1st and graduate on December 18th. As I said before, they'll work straight days for a week or so to get acclimated in driver training, and then they'll go into their respective groups. I don't know if the board wants me to mention their names or we just wait until they're employees, as their first start date is September 1st.
You can mention their names. Their names have already been announced at the last meeting when we hired them.
Okay. So they'll be probationary firefighters for a 1-year probationary period. James Kelleher, Jeffrey Hill, and John Carl Navarrete. So congratulations to them, and we wish them good luck in the academy. Starts next Tuesday. I would ask the board to consider leasing a second copier. The members are using an old copier in the hallway, and it really doesn't work too good. It's probably 20 years old, and there was an old one from a lease that isn't working properly either. I don't think it's worth spending any money. Both the copiers are 10, and I think the other one's 20 years old. So I would ask the board, we spoke to the person we're leasing the copier from. We're very happy with the one we have now. The one we have now prints color and black and white. They have a lightly used demo model that they used in their office just as a demo. So they would consider leasing it to us. It would be a black and white copier only. It scans color, but it only prints black and white, which is what the members use for their check reports, their run reports, their, all the reports. So the cost would be, if we would like to do it, a 5-year lease would be $100 per month. I think we're paying like 140 or 130 something for the one we have in the front office that Jamie and I use. So, we would eliminate those 2 old ones that don't really work too well. And one of them, is really bad. So I would ask the board to consider that. Jamie and I had discussed it, and we, after talking to the rep from the copier company, we think we've been very happy with the machine we have. And because it's lightly used, that I think it would be a good deal. There's also an option for a 4-year lease, but the price goes up to $118 a month. So I would ask the board if they were interested in leasing a second copier from the same company we use now.
How much would it cost to purchase the copier?
I don't know. I would, if you add up the price of the lease, it looks like it would be about $4,000 or $5,000. 5-year lease, 60, I guess 6,000, right? $100 a month times 60 months. So, I'm sure some of that is, their markup because it's a lease, but, I don't know, honestly. I guess I would have to look into it. We don't have to, if you don't want to approve it tonight, that's fine. But it was just a recommendation that I would make, that we do get a new copier for the members to use.
I would prefer to.
I know you're going to be besmirched, but you got to get 2 more quotes.
It would piggyback onto our current lease, wouldn't it?
No, and it's a different product. It's not apples to apples. If you can get 2 more quotes, if you look back in your email, there should be, I think we used Rico and maybe another company to get comparative quotes. You do have to get 2 more quotes because it's a service. Even though it's a piece of equipment, we don't own it. It's a service. You have to get 2 more quotes. If we were to enter into a new lease for an additional copier that was identical, then you could probably argue that we've already quoted out that price, but it's also been over a year.
Okay, that's fine. Well,
I think
so
we got
When
that
we get the
copier
quotes,
when,
get a price too, Chief.
I think Peter
Okay, a
was
price
on
to
the
own?
board when we got that copier, so it's been probably more than a year. So,
oh yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
probably closer to 2 years.
yeah, I would
Check
check out your email. You can call Rico; they'll get you a quote
Right.
within 24 hours. They'll do it
Okay.
all online, and then, I would say this. Here's what I would say. I would say go ahead, and the board could approve the expenditure based upon the receipt of 2 quotes that are equal to or greater than the current model that you've quoted out, and then just give you that flexibility, but get the 2 quotes so we know the work's been done, and then you could just go forward with it. I'm fine with that.
Would it be apples to apples because it's a demo, though? I don't know. I would assume the demo is going to be lower. If we do brand new ones, then I would imagine they're going to be higher just because of that.
You would just quote out the same. The thing is, would they be? No, because they're not demos. So,
Right. So how could I find 2 other demo quotes?
You don't have to. You find 2 other quotes with the quote for the same unit that's brand new, and then go with the demo so long as it makes the fiscal sense for the district.
Okay.
Have them give you a quote for the brand new one and get 2 other quotes for the same thing from the other companies. And if the demo is the best way to go, then so be it.
And would the board want the 4-year lease or the 5-year lease? I know Commissioner Roche wants the purchase price, so I'll ask for that. But what would be the preference on the length of the lease?
The lesser, the better, to be honest with you, because the technology changes and dies, and we get a new one.
Okay.
That's
it does increase the price. So
as security updates come along, the longer you hold the lease, the better. How old was this unit anyway? If you get a 4-year lease, do you have any idea about when it was manufactured?
No, I don't have that information. Yeah.
Right. So if it's already 2 years old, we're leasing a 6-year-old machine in 4 years.
Okay.
So I don't know. That's just my thing. I think the more turnover, the better with that stuff, because we just end up paying for it.
Okay. And the last item on my report is at the last meeting, I asked the board to approve purchase of the Lucas 3 CPR machine. And I don't know if I miscommunicated it, but I think Commissioner Roche, you understood that we were going to get new batteries for the next 3 years. We don't. We're covered for warranty. If the batteries go bad, they will be replaced. But Jamie seemed to think that I made it sound like we are going to get new batteries and new straps and all that kind of stuff. So we're purchasing a warranty agreement. Anything that goes bad, the straps, the case, the suction cups, any of that stuff that goes bad, they will warranty and replace the batteries if they go bad. But if they're working fine, they're not going to give us new batteries. So I just wanted to make sure the board is okay with me still getting that extended warranty, or do we just want to buy the unit and just pay for repairs as needed and, annual PM?
Well, the suction cups are disposable, you said, or they're not disposable?
No, you'll be one-time use, but the salesman has agreed to give me 10 when we order the machine. So he's going to throw in 10. So, like a package as his sales promotion. So,
But you did make it seem like that as we use them, they would be replaced by the warranty.
Again, maybe that was part of his offer to give us 10 suction cups, when we order the machine.
So the warranty no longer covers the suction cups that are one-time use.
Let me grab it and I'll read exactly what it covers.
Okay, I'm sorry, guys.
The on-site prevent for Lucas 3 includes hard shell case, slim back plate, 2 patient straps, 1 stabilization strap, 2 suction cups, 1 rechargeable battery, and instructions for use. So if any of those things go bad in the second year or third year, they're covered under the normal warranty the first year. If anything goes bad, then they warranty them and replace them. And again, the suction cups, I think, were $40 for, for a suction cup.
Yes. Yeah, so are they replaceable? I still don't know.
They're single use because of, body fluids and all that kind of
stuff. So
that's
not going bad then, or is that considered going bad?
I think his accommodation was that he's going to give us a bag of 10.
And it's not part of it. Well, it's up to the other board members. I think the 1 year would suffice because it comes with the machine. But if they feel like the close to 10% increase in the purchase price for an extended warranty is worth it, then I'll acquiesce.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ProCare total cost is $1,447. The unit itself is $15,079.46. So it is, just about 10% to extend the warranty an additional 2 years. But we would have to pay for normal preventative maintenance for somebody to come in and do it. This covers the normal preventative maintenance.
Okay. Go with the 3 years and move on unless you want to deal with it in another year, guys.
Yeah, I'm fine. I think it's a great piece of machinery, and I'm fine with doing whatever the chief recommends on this. Hopefully, we won't be using it that much because it seems to have a very specific use. So I would say the best we could do is make sure it's taken care of and it's protected. So, Chief, if you want to go with the 3 year, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with backing you up on that.
All right, thank you. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you.
So then we had an agenda item called IT. We had a study done. I didn't get a chance to read it today. It's quite long. So we should probably deal with that at the September 10th meeting.
Well, the one thing I would say is that the board should permit access for this group to complete the report. I don't understand why he had mentioned that he didn't have access to our internals when it seems like everybody else in the world does. So I would say that we should just have a quick discussion and allowing him to go ahead and finish his report by reviewing everything we have, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, the only thing I see through there, I did read the one section 5. I didn't read the rest of it, but and I did email him, ask him if he was Google certified, and he has no Google certification, and we use Google Drive.
Yeah, but he responded back to you.
I read it.
Okay.
And
so what did the response say?
I was just surprised he wasn't Google certified, or his technicians weren't Google certified.
Well, he said right. What did he say about the Google certification? That it's just something that you pay for $85 for,
Yeah,
right?
but if you're a professional and that's your line of work, I mean, you generally get your certifications. But that's me. But
Well, I don't think that Google Suite is something that is very complex, that it requires certification. Do none of the commissioners have Google certification?
no,
We use
no.
it every day.
If they would have asked if we had
We
Google,
administrate it.
Right. We're the administrators and we don't have the certification.
well, not everyone's administrator, but
Well, the report says that's improper, that users should not be the administrator of the account.
well, the report also says we don't back up with only 30 days when we have Vault, which backs up a lot longer than 30
That's not what he said. The report indicates that if you delete something, it is gone and not recoverable after 30 days. Because Google doesn't hold on to it. So in a normal municipality, if there is a error in something being deleted and you catch it more than 30 days later, you're able to recover it. In our situation, you aren't.
I think
Because
what your
Google
email
extends it.
Vault can get. I think Google Vault can retrieve your emails.
Not if you delete it. It only backs it up so that you have it if it's current. That was what that section was indicating.
I got to Google that. I didn't see
All right.
it.
Chief, did Glenn Sullivan ask you for access to the administrator to evaluate our Google account?
The Glenn Sullivan was here for the walkthrough prior to the bid proposal. One of his employees was here for the actual walkthrough to do the inventory of all the equipment, and I gave him whatever he needed. I brought him down to our switch in the basement, and I brought him to all the computers and all the firehouses. He didn't really ask for any kind of administrative thing. I have administrator privileges. I could have, with me in the room, I would have, logged in as an administrator. He didn't ask me to do that.
I think
All
that's
right. So, but he is asking now. So should we set up a time where he can come in and do that?
Yeah, I don't know what he needs to do, just to go into our administrator account. I mean, sure, either Jamie or myself, could do that. That's not a problem.
Chief, did you get a copy of the report?
I did, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think he lists it in there.
He said it a couple times
Yeah.
that he needed access to administrator.
But I think we can give him like the chief says. He can go into a room. The chief logs in. We don't give him an admin password.
No, I think that's fine.
Logs in with the chief, and the chief walks him through the dashboard. The dashboard's pretty simple. There's not much on it. It basically looks to see if you have dual verification and set up, and the quality of people's passwords.
Yeah. He's probably looking at stuff that's a little bit more buried that you have to get through on the admin side. He's probably not looking at like the tools.
He's looking for security avenues, where people can get in and where we can prevent it.
Yeah, I think he's looking for a lot more in-depth stuff. So I would say let him have it. Let him we'll let him know. I can email him. Coordinated with Chief Tween on a day that works for the chief for him to be here, and they have a chaperone who'll be the chief and or Jamie, depending on the day.
Right, but if you're trying to find out whether somebody can get into your system, you basically hire someone to do a penetration test.
In his report, he already demonstrates that he got into our system to another location.
I'll have to read the report. I haven't seen it.
That's probably a good idea. So, as much as we don't like that to be in public, it's already communicated in that report.
Yeah.
So that only drives home the need for us to have a little bit better security. And we are without some of the appropriate walls that we should have up right now.
I don't know about that.
Okay. Maybe we should call him right now and see if he wants to take over
I think
an email tomorrow will be fine still.
But I think that he did say that he does want to have a discussion with us about this report, which I think is a very a valuable thing, and especially when it has to do with district security, we should try and put together a session to meet with him on Zoom as he requested, and do that. Either do it on the date of September 10th, if that's going to be our next day, or a special meeting just for those circumstances.
And I think that he should recommend the computers and the systems that they go on that the chief has been asking about.
He actually does make mention of what the chief proposed to us back in March or April about those computer systems, and he had recommendations. Specs were good, and I think he said one of the specs he would even up. So if he's concerned about end of life being too soon on one because of one spec in the chief's specs, and if he's able to figure out like it's better to go up a bit, then I would take that suggestion so that they last longer. But we do need to get everybody off Windows 7 if anybody's there, because if anybody's still there. But he did make a mention that we have a little bit too much of a buffet of different types of equipment with different ages and different capabilities, and it's probably hurting us security-wise and update-wise and integral-wise. So I
think especially our switches and routers.
Yeah.
They're not commercial grade.
Yeah, some of those switches and routers are the county operated.
Well, the issue with the county is that everybody is on it, even though it's good and reliable. But the issue that he was bringing up in his report is that our switches are residential switches, routers that belong in a residential setting that are not properly, let's say, they're not proper for our district. We should be looking at a different set of routers and switches.
But some of those, I agree. But some of those routers they're just simply routers that are broadcasting internet from they're not tied into our system. In other words, they're not in the RMS system that we're using. They're
right. That's right. And he does also mention that we have our signals and stuff are weak in certain areas, and part of that is because of the lack of strength. But the county system, everybody has it. But he had demonstrated in his report that he feels it's better for us to move over to either LightPath or FiOS and get away from where we're at now, which most municipalities jump on the LightPath because they have a good deal with government. So we should just look at it. Read the report. Let's get Glenn in here. Let's give him the access. Let's get a full report and have the discussion with him, with an expert.
Okay.
Perfect.
So we got that report this morning. And it's about 19 pages. Okay. Anything else for tonight's business?
I don't know. Is there anything else? I don't think so. Tom, do you have anything? I guess not.
Okay, so
I'm fine.
Almost 3 hours. Or 2 hours.
I do have something. Thank you, Stu. I do believe that we should be considerate of all members on the board. In the beginning of the year, there was a push to have a Saturday morning meeting and morning meetings, and I don't think it's fair to end that. I think that we should be continuous, and I'm not saying every meeting should be a Saturday morning meeting, but I do think that we should share the burden, that one person shouldn't have to take a vacation day every time there's a meeting scheduled.
But that person did know when they joined the board that the board for the last forever typically met on evenings. Now, there are times when we've had special meetings due to, some personnel matter that came up or an urgent matter that came up. But the monthly meetings were generally held in the evenings. And that's a good reminder to tell me.
And you told him that? You said no, they're evening meetings. You never mentioned that we could do Saturday morning meetings and make accommodations?
Well, we did make a couple accommodations for him at the beginning of the year. But let me bring this up right now because it's good that you brought this up. We have an election, fire district election this year is December 8th. And so if anybody wants to run for fire commissioner and dedicate their time like we're doing now to the fire district, and the fire board used to meet on the second Thursday of the month generally, or the second week of the month we pick a date to meet generally. and would usually be at 7 o'clock, and the meetings would last anywhere from, call it 2 hours to 4 hours. There's a push on now because Commissioner Keating works nights for a law firm of Scatton, I believe, and he doesn't want to meet during the evening. He only wants to meet on Saturdays. So if somebody wants to run for this board, they should realize the fact that they may be meeting on the Saturdays going forward if the majority of the board, which is 3 people, agree to that. So I want to put out there that if anybody wants to run for fire commissioner, where New York State elections are somewhat of in a flux right now, they're going to sort that out probably between now and November. And our elections in December, sometime around Thanksgiving, you need to have a petition with 25 names on it, and it's a 5-year term. Each of the commissioners serve for 5 years. The current rundown is I'm up for election this year. Mr. Rabin will be up next year. Mr. Roach will be up the following year. Mr. Harlow will be up the year after that, and Mr. Keating the year after that. So that's generally the mix. There are 5-year terms. There's no compensation. There is no, they're the only, you get psychic income for attending these meetings. That's it.
Are you running for re-election, Dennis?
I have no idea yet. We'll see how that goes. I always enjoy my time on the board, Tom.
Well, I will say this. I mean, I cannot believe that Commissioner Keating was not aware of the fact that we only met on weeknights. I only say only because, let's say, in general, it's been a weeknight meeting. If someone told me that we would meet on a Saturday, I clearly would never have run for this. I think it's inconsiderate also to do a Saturday meeting because of the chief and Jamie. So and Tom, I know you tried to get this thing going on with a weekday, a weeknight, a weekend. That to me, I'm sorry, is just absurd. We need to get a schedule in place. Like the town board meets on a second Tuesday or whatever it is. There's no reason to meet on a Saturday. I am sorry he ran. If he didn't know that, he had to have known that. I don't know what he was expecting us to do as a board. Do we all acquiesce and just say, all right, yeah, sure, we'll meet on a Saturday morning? I'm going to say, again, for me personally, you will never see me on a Saturday. That being said, you guys want to have Saturday meetings? More power to you.
You will not see me on a Saturday either.
The board should never have erred from the calendar that we put into effect from 2018, where we met on the second Tuesday of every month. That's what should never have happened.
Okay, but still, even though we did 2
meetings, meeting this year was at 8:30 in the morning on a Tuesday. So as much as I can appreciate what people are saying, these meetings have all of a sudden become haphazard this year, but for the last 2 years, we've had consistency. So what changed?
Well, I think we're trying to get back to consistency, but
what changed the consistency? Because I wasn't calling the meeting.
I sent out an email in May suggesting we meet on the second Thursday of the month.
I want to know what happened in December.
Nobody answered that request.
I want to know what happened in December and January that changed it, not May, when you decided to go back.
In January, we were trying to accommodate the new commissioner.
Okay, so it was you accommodating the new commissioner that you don't want to accommodate the new commissioner anymore. Just be straight about it.
We didn't think it was going to be every meeting. We didn't think it was going to be every meeting.
You didn't have a discussion with myself or Mr. Roach about changing it. You had a discussion with the commissioner about other commissioners about changing it. So
I don't think you made the first meeting, Stu. As I remember, I don't think you made the January
I
meeting.
made every single meeting except for the one you called at 8:30 in the morning when normal people are going to work.
Well,
I haven't missed a meeting.
Okay, so why don't we correct this and start having meetings, pick a night, 7 o'clock, Tuesdays, Thursdays, pick it.
Well, it doesn't really make sense right now. You adopt a calendar in the beginning of the year, which you guys on your reorg meeting did not do. So we've already talked about September 10th, so that's when we're meeting. And then we have to meet at some time at the end of September, I guess, to adopt the budget if we don't get it done on the 10th. We have a forced day of meeting in late October because we have to adopt the budget. In November, pick a
October
day,
20th.
and in
Tuesday,
December,
October
we
20th.
meet the Thursday after the election.
That's December 10th.
Right. We always meet the Thursday after the election.
Right, so my schedule would be, if you wanted to go back to a standard schedule, it'd be September 10th, October 8th, the legal date of October 20th, November 12th, and then December 10th.
Why are we meeting twice in October?
Well, no, October is twice because the law requires you to have the fixed date of October 20th.
Right, we should just meet on the 20th.
Well, then you're going to go from September 10th to the 20th. You're probably going to have to, that's, almost, maybe.
Well, we could have-
September 10th is the workshop meeting because it's less than 2 weeks away. And then we're going to have another meeting later in September.
September 27th is the day we have to adopt the budget by. So
Exactly.
what we do is we meet on the day we have to adopt the budget, the draft budget, the day we adopt the budget, a day usually like the Tuesday or before the week of Thanksgiving, and then December, the Thursday after the election. It's not that difficult. Well, the new board, or if it's all of us still, if Dennis chooses to run again and win or whatever, we'll adopt a calendar in January.
Okay. Now, the September 10th, we should try to adopt a proposed budget on September 10th. If you adopt the proposed budget on September 10th, the budget can only go down, not up. And then you do your budget vote on the legal date. But you can we normally adopt the budget by September 10th. We have a workshop and then we adopt the budget right afterwards. That's typically how we do it.
Right. Okay.
But we can wait till September 27th to adopt it if we want.
You can.
You can, but you don't need to. There's no requirement to.
Well, we're going to
Well,
have
that's where the meeting goes, Dennis.
We're going to have to pay the bill for the month of September somewhere towards either the middle or the end of the month. So we're probably going to have to meet twice in September if we meet on the 10th. Right.
But you're going to also in September, I believe, the floor bids are coming back at some point in time.
Yeah. Well, we're not breaking ground.
That's September 25th.
Okay.
So a meeting at the end of September would be perfect, right after the bid opening. Or during the bid opening.
Earlier we have to meet on the 10th for a workshop and to discuss the overtime transfers before the 21st of September, as Jamie told me. Because that's what she has to do the payroll. So we do have to meet. I think she's still on the line, but I think we're going to have to meet on the 10th. We are going to have to meet on the 27th if we choose not to adopt the budget on the 10th. We have to give ourselves that flexibility, even if we don't use the 27th. But again, bills. We're going to have to pay bills. I don't know if we could pay all the bills for September on October 8th. But we're not going to meet then if we have to adopt the budget on the 20th. So Jamie can weigh in on that. I mean, I don't know how we can, 30 days after the 10th, I don't think works out for the 20th. Maybe it does, but probably not.
I'm sorry I interrupted Paul Carlo. Paul, I think I agree with Paul's points completely.
Okay.
Well, you're the only one that heard what Paul had to say, Dennis.
Yeah, I didn't hear him.
I think he's referring to about the weeknight voting, about the weeknight meetings, Dennis?
About Saturday meetings.
Oh, yeah, they heard that.
What about it? We're not even talking about any Saturday between September, October, November, December. We're not even talking about a Saturday.
I'm just we're putting that to bed. That was the idea.
Okay, but we're talking about, are we going to meet on the 10th, everyone? We're going to meet on September 10th.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, great. We did all in favor.
All right.
Oh, great. So our next meeting will be September 10th. And then we can have a discussion on how to lay out stuff. But Jamie, since you're on the line, could you just verify, we will need to meet at the end of September probably to pay bills, or could we wait till October 20th? I feel like that might be too long. If we're meeting
right, because September 10th, we're 2 weeks away.
Right.
There's not going to be the majority of September bills won't be in yet. And then to your point, we do have a bid opening on Friday the 25th. And if we don't agree on the budget on the 10th, then yes, we have to do that by the 29th. So I could foresee needing a second meeting in September.
So why don't we plan on meeting the 10th and the 27th in September?
Well, let's do it.
27th is a Sunday,
Want
I'm
to do
sorry, whatever day, what's the day the budget has to be adopted by in the month of September?
the 29th, which is a Tuesday.
29th. So we need to arrange for the overtime conversation to be had on the 10th, and we need to meet on the 29th in order to pay bills no matter what. I feel like September's taken care of. And October's taken care of, October 20th, pursuant to New York State law. Right, Jamie?
Yep.
Okay.
That's correct.
I think the rest of the year is taken care of. Dennis,
That would-
grab the Tuesday or the Thursday the week before Thanksgiving. And the Thursday after the election, you said is December 10th.
Yes.
Well,
I think
Stu,
that's
do you
correct.
want to do the? Do you want to do? Well, Thanksgiving's late this year. Do you want to do a the week of the? You want to do the 12th or 19th for the Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday meeting in November?
Well,
Hey,
if we meet late September, we might, and late October, we might as well meet later in November.
So that's the third Thursday, 19th of November.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that enough time to pay bills, Jamie?
Yes.
Right.
Dennis, is that okay with you?
We have some election items to do. We can do those in either October or the 20th. This year, absentee ballots are not going to be a discussion. They're automatic, basically. Because we did them last year, the law allows us to do them again this year without a resolution. And the governor is also pushing for absentee ballots to be done automatically. So
We also need to figure out how we're going to run the election, who's going to do that. And I believe right in the month of October, or is it November, that we have to certify stuff in a meeting to approve everything? An election, to run the election, all that stuff.
yeah, if we go to the New York State Association of Fire Districts, they put out a bulletin. And if you look at the June through July bulletin, it's online, just go online. And they have the whole calendar of what you have to do for the election schedule. So that and the budget is usually very good. They do it every year. It's an excellent presentation. So if I have time, I'll download it and send it to everybody. It's the July-June 2020 bulletin. So yeah, October 8th is the last day to adopt the absentee ballots, but we don't have to worry about that. Fire districts who have previously approved it do not have to redo it, according to town law section 175B-1.
Okay.
Okay, so anything else for tonight?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we adjourn and hope everybody stays safe.
Okay. Good night.
Second.
Good
Second.
night. Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I'm still on my queue.
Okay, I'm turning off the recording now. Commissioner Winter, if you give me editing privileges, I'll post it on the YouTube channel.
Okay, as long as I get top billing, you get the editing privileges.
Yep.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Stopping it now.